Hi, and welcome to my first episode of Music with Jeeves. I'm here with the musical artist and author, Allister Thompson.
Good to be here, Jeeves.
So basically we're going to talk about Allister Thompson's new album. It's basically Canadian genre, and can you kind of touch upon basically what inspired you to make the music?
Yeah, so I'm a veteran musician. I've been doing this a long time. I do a lot of original music. But a few years ago I started experimenting doing cover versions a bit, trying to see if I could bring out something different and then reinterpret them rather than just to do a jukebox version of them. Mm-hmm. And I found that I really enjoyed it. So I have a few projects like that under my belt. But as I was sort of getting a bit older, into middle age, I started thinking back to what inspired me to get into music in the first place. And I listened to music from all places and all genres when I was young. Mm-hmm. And we're young, we're talking like 80s and 90s here. I'm not a young fella. And so I started thinking about the Canadian acts that, caused young people like me to think like maybe there's a chance for us. Because, if someone's from London, or New York, whatever, maybe it seems like a goal that you can aspire to. But when a band from somewhere like the place you live is got a record contract, traveling around, and they're only a few years older than you, and you like their tunes, you think, well, maybe that could be me. So that's what inspired, me and countless others to get into rock music. And so I thought it'd be fun to take some of those songs that I really liked back in the late 80s and early 90s, which is the period this covers, and do my own versions of them and see how it turned out.
So basically, can you touch upon maybe a couple of some of the tracks that that you decided to put on, or
Yeah, there was a reason for a lot of them. Obviously I needed to like the band a bit, or the music, or the singer. But for example, I knew I needed to have some female representation on there. And when I was a young man, I didn't listen to a lot of female singers, which was stupid. But there were a couple that I did like at that time. One of them was from BC, and her name is May Moore, and she's still somewhat active. She's had albums recently. Anyway, there's a backstory behind a lot of these songs, which is, in this case, the woman that I married, our first date was at a May Moore concert in Toronto when we were 21. And so I had that album at the time, and I used to play it a lot. And so this song, Because of Love, reminded me of that time, and I thought, well, I can give this a go. But there's other songs that are on there sort of because I felt like I did like the songs and I liked the bands at the time, but it felt kind of weird, for example, not doing a Tragically Hip song, because they're so important to our national identity, our development of a music industry, inspiring young people to join rock bands. So I picked the song that I had liked best at that time, which was 38 years old. So there's a sort of a story behind each of the songs and the reasons why I did them.
Right on. And I also noticed that you're partnering with a local charity group for proceeds. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so when I do some of these projects, this is not how I make my living. So it's an opportunity sometimes to take some of the proceeds that I get from music and sort of give them back in this community or other communities. For example, last year I donated proceeds from a single to an Indigenous charity. This time around I chose Out Loud North Bay, which is a safe space and community organizing group for queer youth. So, there's more of an openness now towards celebrating different identities overall in the world, but there's also still a lot of bigotry and prejudice, and sometimes, kids will face that at home when they're, coming out or trying to figure out exactly who they are and what their identity is. So an organization like Out Loud provides programming, it provides a safe space, and I think the work that they do is really great. So I thought, this is my home now, and giving back to charities or organizations in this area is important to me. So I've reached out to them, and they're happy to, accept the proceeds from this, and hopefully I can raise a fair amount to send them.
Well, that sounds great. Where would someone go to find the music that you just put out? Do you have a Bandcamp page, or?
The main place to buy it would be on Bandcamp, and I guess you can put it in, the metadata for your video, because it's a long URL. But it's the Gateless Gate is sort of it's the name of one of my music projects, so that's sort of kind of like my self-label So it's thegatelessgate.bandcamp.com. But you can also find this album, which is titled Nowhere Is the Dreamer, which is a line from a Rush song, actually. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, YouTube, basically anywhere that you find music, you'll find it if you want.
Well, that wraps up my first episode of Music with Jeeves. Thanks again, Allister, for doing this, and check out Nowhere Is the Dreamer
At thegatelessgate.bandcamp.com.